the office. Hi. Thank you very much. We were trying to organize our GC, our Governing Council. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to being the first African and the first woman to be Director General of the World Trade Organization. And I'll tell you the reason why I want to do that. And the reason is because I spent a lot of time at the WTO. I have a track record of delivery at WTO. I was probably, and probably still am, one of the only ambassadors who served in the three main bodies of the WTO, starting with the Trade Policy Review Body, Dispute Settlement Body, and the General Council of the WTO. In fact, fortunately, I was chair of the General Council when the selection process for the current Director General took place, Mr. Lamy. And so I actually know how the process works. But more than that, I actually understand the issues at the WTO. I have worked with all the groups in the WTO, the developed, the developing, and the least developed countries. I've worked with even the breakaway groups like the G33, a like-minded group, and others. And I feel that I have the capacity, and I have the experience, and I have the training, and the right credentials to do this job. You see, if it was an election process, where you actually go into a room, carry out the elections on one day, and walk away, right? Then, of course, one would have to really think twice about having a second African candidate, okay? But this is a marathon. It is not a sprint. It's a marathon. It starts in December and it ends in May, on the 31st of May. Between that time, you have the presentations to the General Council, right? You have meetings with the press, like I'm doing right now with you. You have meetings with governments and visits to capitals. And then you have the selection, not election process, which is a 2-month process, okay? And in that process, what happens is that all the candidates are, put on the table. And members of the WTO are invited to express their preferences. Right? So somebody comes in and says, okay, my preference is, and usually it's 2 or 3 preferences at the same time. It's not one preference, okay? So somebody comes in and says, okay, my preference is, for instance, Kenya and Ghana, okay? Yes. And moves on. And at the end of the day, the 3-member panel that will be sitting there to record, right, these preferences, would then indicate who has the strongest support and the most support, and who has the least support. If you have the least support, you drop off. Okay, in fact, it's automatic. You just, get off the slate. And those that have more support than you, then continue the race. I think it would be a good signal, a very positive, a very strong signal that the rest of the world thinks that we are ready to take up these positions, that we have the competence, right? And we have the experience to do this job. It would be the first time that an African would be doing it. It would be only the second time that anybody from the developing world would do it, because you had an Asian candidate, Superchai, who was there for 3 years. And it would also indicate, I think clearly, that merit, that competence, that knowledge, right, that delivery, that effectiveness is not only domiciled in the north, and that we in the south have something to offer. To modernize the agenda, I think to have a serious discussion on the Doha Round, and by modernizing, I think that the agenda should start taking into account other overarching global concerns like climate change, like food security, like unemployment, issues that the rest of the world is tackling every day. I think we need to recognize that there's an economic and financial crisis and take that into account as we move on. And I think that we need to immediately start focusing on what will happen at the ministerial conference in Bali and what will happen after the ministerial conference in Bali, right? And in doing so, be extremely pragmatic and realistic, and make sure that we do not raise hopes, especially the hopes of concluding too much at a ministerial conference that is taking place in less than 1 year on issues that have been outstanding for 12 years. Okay, so and so that's one of the things that I would bring to the office. Just a dose of pragmatism and reality. I know what really works and what doesn't, and I also I think understand much better now. How governments, the psyche of governments, how governments think and what their major concerns are, how they prioritize issues. I also know that from the time I left Geneva 7 years ago to today, Africa has moved in leaps and bounds. Today we have 6 of the fastest growing economies right here on the continent. I think Africa has the world's natural resources. It has the world's reserve of water. It has half of the world's reserve of forests. It has the youngest population and that is growing. The average age is 19 here in Kenya and in Africa as a whole. In other parts of the world, the average age is much higher. Yeah, so we're innovative, we're creative, and we need a chance to be able to provide not just a leadership but also role models. No, I think every campaign has got its challenges, right? And it's always a complex affair, and it has its ups and downs. And at times, of course, you feel you're very satisfied with your performance, and at other times you don't feel so comfortable. But I think at the end of the day, it will be the sum effect, right, of I think my whole experience and my whole track record, not just in these few months, but in the 6 years I was in Geneva, and in the 4 years I was there before. I think all that will be taken into consideration, and my vision for the organization will also count. But I truly hope that we get a really good signal that says Africa is ready to take up leadership roles at that level. Well, actually, I have a perfectly good job here. It's also the first time that an African woman has held the position of Deputy Executive Director of UNEP. And I'm extremely proud of having achieved that. I also think that there's a lot that has to be done right here with UNEP. UNEP, as you know, is on the move after Rio. Its mandate was enhanced. We're going to have the first universal session of the Governing Council of UNEP in a few days' time, actually from the 18th to the 22nd. And we have an agenda that is very rich. And that is very involving. And so I tell you for sure that I won't die from lack of something to do. I think there's a lot to do here. I also come from from a country that is moving ahead, that is young, that is vibrant, that is innovative, that's creative, and that I think I can devote a little energy to supporting its journey forward. I think the message is that if one is determined, it takes determination, it takes commitment, but nothing comes easier. It's a hard work. It's hard work. I think that one needs to always do their homework and prepare. And this, I think there's nothing that you can achieve without proper preparation. So, if you are in my field, for instance, in a multilateral arena, I think before you attend meetings, you should do your research. You should know what happened before. You should look at the rich history of the organization, the history of the subject matter that you're dealing with. You should probably look at the positions that governments have taken, so that you're prepared, right? And to be prepared is always, I think, the key to success. So hard work, preparation, determination, and you can never predict where you end up. You can never predict, especially for all of us who believe in the Almighty. You can't predict where you end up, but you can always prepare, right, for the best. Women are awake. Well, we were brought up by mothers, and I said in Geneva that half of the world is made up of women, right? The other half was born by women. Women have been awake, and they will always continue to be awake. I think that what is required is to provide the opportunities, like I said with the WTO, to create the level playing field, so that they can feel like chances are out there, and you can grab them. So I mean, it's not an issue of anybody actually, being woken up. No, we have been awake. We've brought up presidents, and we've brought up prime ministers, and we've brought up ministers, and we've brought up secretary generals, and all that has been done by women. So women have done their bit, and I think what has been lacking is the recognition and acknowledgement of the role that the woman has played. And hopefully, with my selection to be the Director General of WTO, that's something that I'll talk about all the time. That we need to recognize and acknowledge and give thanks all the time to our women.